North Korea faces constant oppression from its strict government, a large majority of it surrounding defection, freedom of information, and ever-present threats of work camps. Government officials do not comply with the mass of the People's Rights chapter of the North Korean Constitution, especially on the topic of torture camps. In addition, these camps alone break most of the articles in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Those who try to immigrate from North Korea are sent to prison camps if they are caught. Even if defectors do manage to cross the border into China and Mongolia, many are sent back to North Korea. Similarly to the plight of the North Koreans, many Vietnamese citizens suffered as a result of migration. Called the boat people, these immigrants traveled by sea from Vietnam to Malaysia and were often sent back to their home country by Malaysian officials during the Vietnam War.
These two ethnic groups parallel in their hardships with uncertainty and fear present in the daily life of both.
Work camps in North Korea violate many of the articles in its own constitution. These alone account for the violation of Articles 64, 65, 67 through 69, 71, 72, 74, 75, and 77 through 80 in the People's Rights Chapter. As stated in Article 64, quote, "The state shall effectively guarantee genuine democratic rights and liberties as well as the material and cultural well-being of its citizens," end quote. Democracy entails social and political equality for all, as well as upholding fundamental rights. Article 65 details similar topics, discussing equal rights in all spheres of public and state activity. In labor camps, prisoners are deprived of fundamental rights such as that of relaxation, freedom from inhumane treatment such as torture, and freedom from slavery. An Myung-chol, a former prison guard, said that, quote, "During recruit training at Camp 11, we were taught above all that political prisoners were traitors to the party, the Kim Il-sung, and enemies of the people. If we showed sympathy or tried to do them favors, we'd be punished as well as our parents. If prisoners resisted or tried to escape, it was fine to shoot and kill them."
Articles 67 through 69 detail the freedom of press, free speech, and religious beliefs. All of these are thrown to the wind when it comes to prison camps. However, in everyday life, seeing as the news is state-mandated and it is illegal to speak out against the Kim regime, destruction of all religious beliefs is one of the core foundations of communism. As stated by Karl Marx, religion is the opiate of the masses and should not be allowed in communist society. Articles 71 and 72 speak of the right to relaxation and medical care. Obviously, torture camps do not have medical care. One anonymous former police official stated that the prisoners died every day. We would wrap up bodies and burn them in the winter.
Article 74 states that, quote, "Citizens are free to engage in scientific, literary, and artistic pursuits," end quote. Those who engage in pursuits that are not state authorized are sent to prison camps and often accused of treason. Article 75 gives citizens the right to travel or reside in any country or city, yet the North Korean Criminal Code says otherwise. Article 62 directly opposes this, stating that, quote, "A citizen of the Republic who commits treason against the fatherland by defection shall be punished by reform labor for more than 5 years," end quote. Said reform labor takes place in gulags and often results in torture or death.
Article 77 outlines the protection of women and mothers in the country. Quote, "The state shall afford special protection to mothers and children," unquote. However, in prison camps, pregnant women are deliberately killed along with their unborn children. Article 78 says similarly, protecting marriages and family. The act of killing mothers and children violates this, along with taking parentals away from their families without warrant.
Article 79 states that, quote, "Citizens are guaranteed inviolability of person and home and privacy of correspondence. No citizens can be placed under control or be arrested, nor can their homes be searched without a legal warrant," end quote. First off, correspondence is not private, as many social media outlets are censored by the state. In addition, citizens are often taken from their homes without warrant and are arrested for crimes as simple as watching foreign films. A former prisoner of Camp 15 named Kang Cho-hwan said that in an interview, quote, officials of the National Security Agency came to our house and falsely accused us as traitors. They said that the punishment of our crimes is death, but we would not be killed, end quote. The final article violated by torture camps is Article 80, which states that citizens and foreigners will find asylum in North Korea. Many citizens defect because they cannot find asylum within the country. Those who are caught trying to defect, Article 62, North Korean Criminal Code, are sent to these camps. Furthermore, North Korean torture camps violate nearly every article in the UDHR, albeit a document that countries are not obliged to coincide with.
Freedom of information is another violated right in North Korea. Information is heavily censored in order to promote the Kim regime. One of the basic rights supplied in the North Korean Constitution is freedom of speech, of the press, and of assembly. However, citizens still must struggle video in and out of the country. Japanese reporter Jiro Ishimaru of Asia Press said in a documentary about freedom of information in North Korea that, quote, obviously it's an extremely dangerous thing to do. In North Korea, even filming everyday life is considered a form of political treason. If they are caught filming, they'd be locked up and may never be let out again, end quote. In the Criminal Code, Article 63 states that those who disclose secrets about the country will be, quote, punished by reform through labor for more than 10 years, end quote.
Video is not the only violation of this right. Save for a minority of elite citizens, most North Koreans do not have internet, and what they do have is restricted. Social media outlets such as Twitter and Facebook are censored for any anti-state material. What films are shown are propagandic and about the Kim regime's importance in the daily life of North Koreans. Loudspeakers on every corner promote the state, giving speeches from the government. The majority of these speeches can loop for months on end. They are often given by Kim Jong-un and scapegoat the U.S. After the Korean War, the Americans became a somewhat villainous stereotype to the North Korean people. In addition, the regime may believe that by keeping a common enemy, indoctrination will become easier. All of the North Korean news stations and news outlets, including online researches, are purely propaganda.
Many North Korean reporters claim that the U.S. has missiles pointed at the country or that the U.S. and North Korea are on the brink of war. Another propaganda-driven news outlet is the Korean Central News Agency, or the KCNA. One of the website's headlines is, quote, DPRK strives for improvement of people's living standard, end quote. The article, which was written on January 15th, named 3 companies that had done well in the last month and claimed to bring about a, quote, radical turn in the improvement of people's livelihood with agricultural production, animal husbandry, and fishing as the main thrusts, end quote. In conclusion, what information is accessible to the public is mostly to promote the Kim regime and indoctrinate the people. Freedom of movement is also violated by the North Korean government. Article 13 of the UDHR states that, quote, everyone has the right to leave any country, including his own, and to return to his country, end quote. As stated previously, the North Korean Constitution, Article 75, says similarly. However, both the Criminal Code and the North Korean border guards prohibit this, preventing defectors from leaving the country and, if they try, sending them to gulags.
Those who even need to travel within the country are restricted by the government. One must have a reason to leave, in addition to permission from one's work unit. The government also transfers citizens who are suspected political prisoners to worse parts of the country as reform. Amnesty International interviewed a man from North Korea who said that 124 households directly related to North Korean illegal escapees were relocated to the South Hamgyong province in October of 2005. Freedom of movement is essentially non-existent in North Korea.
Taking into consideration the previous human rights violations, there are many consistencies with these events and those of the boat people. The boat people were Vietnamese immigrants during the Vietnam War who tried to escape by boat. Many North Koreans attempt to defect by swimming across the river between North and South Korea or by hiking across the Gobi Desert into Mongolia. Others do not make it across the border due to guards, but even if they do, there is a very slim chance of staying out of the country. Yeonmi Park, a North Korean defector, stated in her speech with the Oslo Freedom Forum that, quote, "I escaped from North Korea and lived in China as an illegal immigrant for more than a year. My mother and I decided to escape to Mongolia. Along with the 5 people on our team, we walked and crawled across the Gobi Desert, evading Chinese police, kidnappers, and wild animals. Armed with knives, we were ready to kill ourselves if we were going to be sent back to North Korea. We begged the Mongolian soldiers who caught us not to send us back." End quote. China is one of North Korea's closest allies and often sends defectors back, while they would be sent to prison camps. Similar events occurred during the Vietnam War to immigrants who left Vietnam and sailed to the islands of Malaysia. In May 1975, the first of the boat people, there were 47, made it to the Malaysian island of Baidong. Once this became more commonplace, Malaysian officials began sending the boats back to Vietnam. The country did not have the resources or the space to house that many immigrants. If immigrants were able to reach Malaysia unharmed, they would stay in refugee camps, sometimes for months. Then the immigrants would fly to the US, Australia, or Europe.
In the case of the boat people, many migrated because of political oppression and the continuous famine and war. Migrants could not escape through Vietnam's surrounding countries, Laos, Cambodia, and China, as they were all communist. Similarly, in modern North Korea, famine, work camps, and oppression from the government are all reasons that people defect. In North Korea, said camps are commonplace, and those who commit treason, even for small acts of defiance against the government, are sent there and often publicly executed. The largest of these is the Hwasong camp, which, at 540 square kilometers, is more than 3 times the size of Washington, D.C. In 1970s Vietnam, this parallel was called the re-education camp. These were where political prisoners from South Vietnam were sent to learn the political ideologies of the North. Around 1 million people were sent to these camps. Torture was a common method to bend the will of prisoners in order to indoctrinate them.
The level of suffering and commitment these migrants go through to find asylum is immense, yet the chance of finding it is often low. In Vietnam, most boats were overcrowded and barely seaworthy. A boat made for 100 might hold nearly 500. Bad weather conditions caused boats to sink. It also made them vulnerable. Pirates targeted these boats, raping the women on board and stealing the valuables. Even if the boats managed to cross the China Sea into Malaysia, the chances of flying out of Asia were slim. The same chances stand for North Koreans today. According to the CIA's report, 0.04 per 1,000 capita leave the country annually. That means this: if North Korea had a population of 25 million, then around 1,000 people defect yearly.
As more information is smuggled into North Korea, more citizens find fault with our government. Yeonmi Park, a defector who spoke in Oslo, stated that, "A turning point in my life is when I saw the movie Titanic. I realized that it showed me a human story. A new generation of North Koreans will, hopefully, find a way to stop the work camps and propaganda. Freedom of information and movement can be restored again."